Perfect. Now the geeks are in charge.
Do you remember a time before the geeks inherited the Earth? It might be difficult to imagine in a world where comic book movies dominate the box office, shows based on Star Wars and Star Trek are considered prestige TV, and everyone's fluent in Harry Potter and Game of Thrones.
I'm learning how to speak Dothraki. Color you impressed?
But geeks were not always this out and proud.
Hey, write a poem about this, Geek!
For a long time, pop culture treated geeks as outcasts and weirdos. If we look at geek characters in TV and movies over the years, we can see some common patterns that define them. They have specialized knowledge and niche obsessions, whether it's with technology,
We need more input. We gotta fill this thing up with data.
academic pursuits, or pop culture ephemera.
Who are you gonna call? The nerds!
They're romantically awkward and sexually frustrated,
Didn't you read Lord of the Rings in high school?
No, I had sex in high school.
and often get flustered, even terrified by interactions with people they're attracted to.
My density has popped me to you.
Because of all this, they're often filled with angst, longing to break out of their social station, find love, or otherwise change themselves to be less of an outcast. But do these long-standing signifiers still hold true in an age when the geeks increasingly hold all the power?
Nerd culture is mainstream now, so when you use the word nerd derogatorily, it means you're the one that's out of the zeitgeist.
And if they become confident, happy, and popular, are they even really geeks anymore? Here's our take on the geek, and what happens when the outcast becomes the ruler of the pop culture world.
Bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills. Girls only want boyfriends who have great skills.
Hi everyone, I'm Susanna.
And I'm Deborah, and you're watching
The Take. Be sure to share and subscribe.
and never miss a take.
This video is brought to you by Brilliant, a problem-solving website and app that helps you think like your favorite brainy characters with fun, interactive courses in math, science, and computer science. Brilliant has incredible courses on everything from solar energy to casino probability. Click the link in the description below, brilliant.org/thetake, to sign up for a free account now. The first 200 people that go to the link will get 20% off an annual premium subscription. The term geek has often been used interchangeably with terms like nerd, dweeb, or dork.
You might have been called a spaz, or a dork, or a geek.
But it's worth noting that the word geek comes from 19th century carnivals, where the geek show would find performers biting the heads off chickens.
The word is geek, as in someone who can perform freakish acts without actually themselves being a freak of nature.
So being a geek meant you were repulsive, yet strangely fascinating. Thus, it's fitting that early on-screen geek portrayals conflated nerdiness with freakishness. The 1963 comedy The Nutty Professor depicted the nerd as hyper-intelligent, but a buck-toothed, bespectacled, socially awkward mess.
Actually, I would appreciate the assistance, for were it not for your assisting me, I might very well be here all semester.
Jerry Lewis's characterization became the classic geek standard,
Even that's a powerful oven.
with his geek voice echoing for decades after.
Did you really put her liver in the mailbox? Because I heard that they found her liver in the mailbox next to her spleen and her pancreas.
In this riff on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the scientist resorts to creating an actual potion to transform himself.
I know what you're thinking. Where's he been all my life, right?
And variations on this plot still appear decades later in more stories about geeks who long to use their smarts to achieve social acceptance.
All these girls, they all know my
Gary.
name. What?
Nobody likes us.
Why are you messing with the fantasy? We're hip, man. We're popular.
Early geek characters were usually ostracized from the main group, and the audience wasn't expected to identify with or even like them.
Hey, Eugene!
So the 60s offered a notable exception when Star Trek's super intelligent yet socially awkward Mr. Spock
What happened?
The occipital area of my head seems to have impacted with the arm of the chair.
was portrayed as an essential member of the team who's also comfortable with himself.
I prefer the concrete, the graspable, the provable.
You'd make a splendid computer, Mr. Spock.
That is very kind of you, Captain.
He became an early geek role model, the kind of idealized geek that you could look up to, maybe even love. It wasn't until the dawn of the 80s teen comedy, led by writer-directors like John Hughes, that the geeks were allowed to be more than just freaks or human calculators.
Any halfway decent girl can rob me blind because I'm too torqued up to say no.
The geeks played by Anthony Michael Hall in Hughes movies like The Breakfast Club or 16 Candles weren't typically the leads, and they didn't usually get the girl. They were still goofy and awkward, but they were also treated with more sensitivity.
I can't have an F. I can't have it. I know my parents can't have it.
And in movies like the Hughes scripted Weird Science, they were even allowed to be the heroes.
We're gentlemen, so we're gonna give you a choice.
Yeah, you can leave in peace.
Or you can stay and die.
With 1984's Revenge of the Nerds, the geek revolution officially began.
I'm a nerd, and I'm pretty proud of it.
A college comedy that showed that geeks could party just as hard as the frat boys of Animal House. It also proved that they could be every bit as misogynistic and problematic.
Hey! What are you doing? Give me those back! Nerd saw me naked!
Still, it allowed for a much greater diversity of geeks and nerds.
And we certainly won't discriminate. Our chapter will be open to people of all races and creeds.
And sexual orientation.
And most importantly, it established the idea that there's a little geek inside of everyone. This message resonated with an entire generation of geeks who finally saw themselves represented.
You identify with those nerds?
Yes, I consider myself a nerd, and this movie has uplifted me.
Tonight is the night we fight back. Tonight is our Independence Night.
Even after the nerds got their revenge, they were still subject to some eye-rolling caricatures.
I'll be all the Screech that I can be. Ow!
Characters like Saved by the Bell's Screech or Family Matters' Urkel were portrayed as annoying, unwanted intrusions.
Did I do that?
The message to the young viewers of these shows was clear. You don't want to be a geek.
I don't know what to say.
Well, good. We don't have time to hear it.
Soon, though, the emergence of alternative culture in the 90s fostered the idea that being an outcast was not only okay, but actually kind of cool.
Hey, chicks dig smart guys. Who knew?
Suddenly, glasses-wearing geeks could be rock stars, with many of them winking at their own geekiness. At the same time, rising internet use meant that everyone was now tied to their computer.
This is our world now. The world of the electron and the switch, the beauty of the baud.
The internet allowed geeks to find thousands of others like them, creating a sense of community that reassured them they weren't alone, and that their interests weren't as niche as they once thought.
Alt.nerd.obsessive.
With the real-world geek in bloom, it was only natural that geek characters became more nuanced. Brian Krakow from My So-Called Life is awkward, uncool, and has no idea how to act with girls.
How am I supposed to get her number? I just ask some girl I don't even know for her phone number, without warning?
But he's also a sympathetic, multidimensional character that almost every teen could identify with.
Made you, happy?
Yeah.
Because that's probably all that, matters.
Judd Apatow's Freaks and Geeks went even further, looking past the popular kids to focus squarely on these characters that had long been consigned to the margins.
Nurse Cindy liked me.
She likes you.
Yeah, like a friend.
Ooh, that's the worst.
The show treated their lives as every bit as joyous, confusing, and complex as any other teens. It also looked at more subtypes of social outcasts, as the central group of geeks are nothing like the so-called freaks, with their edgy, alternative cool brand of slackerdom.
Why does she hang out with those guys? They're gonna ruin her life. If you don't care about high school, then you won't get into a good college, and no future, and you'll wind up dead or in jail.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer likewise found multiple types of geeks within the halls of Sunnydale High, from the more traditionally meek and studious Willow.
And I'm a big fan of school. You know me. I'm like, go school, eat your birthday.
To the comic book loving dork with a heart of gold Xander.
I laugh in the face of danger, then I hide until it goes away.
Geeks could even be villains, capable of causing as much pain as they endured.
You guys want to team up and take over Sunnydale?
Geekiness could still be funny on these shows.
Stop touching my magic bone!
But the laughs weren't usually at the character's expense. More often, they were intended to include winces of recognition.
I don't need another friend. I already have two. I mean, how many more friends does a guy need?
And those more nuanced and empathetic portraits paved the way for geeks that a broader range of viewers could identify with. Diverse characters like Ugly Betty or Abed from Community,
Cool.
who showed us that geeks could come from anywhere.
The best part about Obama is that he's a black nerd. I love that junk, because I'm a black nerd, and that was illegal until like 2003.
Not only were the geeks often seen saving the day with their special skills, they were becoming downright aspirational. And geek girls were no longer just love interests for their fellow nerds.
I'll be right there behind you. Kind of like your nerd in shining armor.
They were the romantic leads, the ones you suddenly realized you should have been falling for all along. The OC's Seth Cohen even managed to become a genuine geek heartthrob.
Did you seriously just ask if there was a comic book based on the X-Men movie?
An emo-loving comic book fan, Seth made being a geek seem like something not only to be proud of, but actually desirable.
Yes, Brad, she's dating this emo geek. Yeah, that's right. I'm a big dork and I listen to emo, and I'm dating her.
The geeks were finally becoming the heroes of their stories, which turned them into other people's heroes too.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Today, the geek stories are our stories. CBS's The Big Bang Theory centers geeks and geek love.
Sheldon and I engaged in sexual intercourse. In other news, I'm thinking of starting an herb garden. Mom's the word, gotta go.
Yet this mainstream sitcom is about as far from a niche interest as you can get.
And the people's choice is The Big Bang Theory.
The same goes for movies. Erstwhile, geek obsessions like comic books and Star Wars now dominate the cultural conversation.
I have been kind of tense lately, just thinking about the new Star Wars sequel. I'm afraid they're going to rely too heavily on CGI, and I'm carrying it all on my shoulders.
Creators like J.J. Abrams, Joss Whedon, and Guillermo del Toro, who make no bones about their own geeky obsessions, are some of our most powerful, influential filmmakers, translating their personal interests into massive hits and industry-wide veneration. But this mainstreaming has also caused a shift from a pop culture that sympathizes with geeks to one that panders to them. As critics of The Big Bang Theory will tell you, the show relies on broad caricatures not all that dissimilar from those early Jerry Lewis-inspired nerds.
When will Stewart be back?
I don't know. He went out for coffee with a girl.
Meanwhile, it traffics heavily in shoehorned references, making its supposed embrace of geek culture seem largely superficial.
The fate of Doctor Who's TARDIS will be decided by a Game of Thrones-inspired deathmatch on the battlefield of Thundercats versus Transformers.
These days, it's common practice for movies and TV shows to jump on that bandwagon by having characters proclaim their geek bona fides, however unconvincingly.
I'm an amazing kisser. All us nerds are, because we appreciate it more.
And in a more extreme form of pandering, movies and shows increasingly tailor themselves to please the geeks who make up particularly vocal fan bases.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
This fan service and the constant internet-fueled coverage of some of their dominating interests have led some geeks to believe that they hold all the power. And that can lead to the problem of gatekeeping.
What day of the week do new comic books come out on?
Wednesday.
What's Wonder Woman's secret identity?
She doesn't have one.
True, which I think is a mistake, by the way.
As the tent of geek culture has become bigger, geeks have become increasingly territorial, attacking those who dare to criticize or enter their space without their permission.
And if she and her social justice warriors don't leave gaming now, we will make them.
Movements like Gamergate have exposed the toxic masculinity that's long been percolating within geek culture, where geeks have often been characterized as awkward nice guys who are implicitly deserving of sex, as if this somehow excuses their most disturbing actions.
If it's creepy to use the internet, military satellites, and robot aircraft to find a house full of gorgeous young models so that I can drop in on them unexpectedly, then fine, I'm creepy.
Stories that center male geeks as the heroes can engage in a sometimes dangerous romantic wish fulfillment.
Are all nerds as good as you?
Yes.
And encourage a sense of entitlement that's an even more toxic influence than rejection.
Howard,
Would you like to explain to me why your Facebook page has a picture of me sleeping on your shoulder captioned "Me and my girlfriend"?
Fortunately, with more people self-identifying as geeks, we don't need to define geeks so narrowly, or let the angriest or loudest control the narrative. In both pop culture and in real life, anyone can be a geek, and geeks are no longer freak shows.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
I'm gonna go for us being cool guys.
This widespread acceptance has led to some frustration from quote-unquote true geeks.
I'm such a total nerd.
Hi there, I'm Brian. I'm an actual nerd. I wear these glasses to see.
True, maybe it comes off as facile when attractive, popular, seemingly well-adjusted people proclaim their awkwardness. But feeling out of place or just plain weird is a universal human experience. If we allow everyone to express the geek inside, we all feel slightly less like outcasts. And maybe the nerds will no longer feel the need to exact revenge.
What do you say? Give these geeks one more shot.
This is The Take. What do you want our take on next?
This video is brought to you by Brilliant, a problem-solving website and app that offers math and science courses developed by award-winning professionals from MIT, Microsoft, and Google. With Brilliant, interactive learning becomes addictive and rewarding. Take their logic course, for instance. You'll start by solving fun puzzles, but before you know it, you'll be developing the critical thinking skills that are the basis for mathematical reasoning. Whether you're a whiz at these subjects or haven't taken a math or science class in years, Brilliant has something for you. All you have to do is click the link in the description below, brilliant.org/thetake, to sign up for free. And if you're one of the first 200 people to click the link, you'll get 20% off an annual premium subscription.